don't feel weird when I say now recording, because this is just, it's easier for me to have it running. Everything will be edited heavily. The way that we'll run this is that we'll record the whole session. It should take around 25 minutes. We'll convert it to YouTube, and then we'll do subtitling automatically with software. We'll edit it, and we'll make you both look fabulous. And then we'll come up with 3 to 5 minutes of the maple syrup of the content that we really, boils down to.
So Susan, you're going to go first and introduce yourself, and I'll introduce myself, and you ask me what the hell is all this stuff about?
Right.
Listen.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I had a couple of questions that I just wanted to get clarified on. So when we introduce ourselves, should we give kind of a more fulsome introduction, or should I just say I'm a professor at Trinity? Should I say anything else?
I would keep it as short as you're comfortable with. Think of it as a broad public audience. They probably don't need to know too much, but your name and your position. And if you want to say, and I've been working on Forest for X years, whatever you're most comfortable. Just imagine you're at a dinner party, you have a very active, polite audience. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Let's hear this. A couple of other small pieces is that when you're speaking, it will feel weird to do this, but I'm going to ask you to do it. First thing is to look at the camera and not at the person. So right now I'm looking at you and I'm not looking, but now when I look at the camera, you can see the difference. So find your camera. Bill, you're looking down at Susan or me, whatever. So just think about when you're talking. Yeah, it's better.
I'm sure you look good for this, so I'm just checking it out. Just okay.
It's fine.
Hang on, I'm trying to get Bill's face near the camera, which will,
that also works. That also works too, whatever trick it takes. But you want to be, you're speaking to the public. You're looking in the camera. That's what you're doing. The second thing that's really,
is this the way I should be looking?
Yes, that's absolutely perfect. The second thing that's really hard to do is to have unnatural pauses, because we will edit everything out. Even the ums will make you sound great. So don't be afraid to count to 3 before you say something. And if you have something great and then you continue talking and we can't cut it out, we lose that quote. So before you respond, you could even think, I need to count to 3 before I respond. And then when you end, count to 3 before you say anything else. And that gives us the space to edit. And it also allows you to collect your thoughts. And if at any time you feel uncomfortable, feel like you went halfway down an answer and then you're like, I got to start over, just say, I'm going to start over. And then count to 3 and you start over again. Susan, did you have any other questions? Sound like you had a couple of others.
No, well, I wanted to change the theme to climate mitigation, and I forgot what it was before because I overwrote it with my red writing. But I didn't know if that was okay. Yes. I forgot what the other word was.
I think what I had written there was, excuse me, what are the myths regarding young forests and climate mitigation / carbon sequestration? And you can just think about it as climate mitigation, or really however you want to frame it up.
Okay.
And so again, you don't need to take what we put down here literally. We just want you to get at these themes.
Right.
Or the themes that you want. Bill, looks like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what do we just say something like forest and climate, forest and climate mitigation, separating myth from reality. I think that would, something like that, short and snappy.
Yep. That's what we're looking for.
And that, and I mean, well, you tell me, I guess I don't actually know the answer to this question. Jamie, will they likely be, will we include the questions that they're asking each other in the final product? Very likely. No, that's what I thought.
I mean, you're asking yourselves the question. It should be a natural conversation between the two of you to say, I've heard this term proforestation. Tell me a little bit more about that. Think about it as you are both self-moderating a panel of 2. So it's a little awkward, but it's interesting for the observer.
Okay.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great. You can be on the panel, and we'll also share the final edited version with you. And if you always have veto powers, like cut this out, we will honor that as well.
So should Susan begin by saying the title, the theme, and then introducing herself? And then,
What
or,
I'd recommend something like, my name is Susan Massino, and I'm a professor at X, Y, and Z, and we're here today to talk about myths, separating the myths, whatever you feel to frame it. It's just
that'd be good.
creating a little package.
Okay. All right. So Bill, I suggest we follow the first things by Zach. Like I'll say, hi, I'm me. You say, hi, I'm Bill. And then I'll say, we're here to talk about forests and climate mitigation in New England. Well, you want it to be about New England,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
then maybe just to jump in on that too, Susan, I would just say, the focus of this is on the Northeast.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's perfectly all right. In fact, I think it's great if you connect the dots at various points, between the Northeast and the globe. I mean, I think that's great to do, but the focus of the film is on northeastern forests.
By the
okay.
way, there's just this brand new paper by Rich Birdsey and people at Woodwell Climate about why the Northeast forests are just the right state of development to add huge amounts of carbon in the next decades.
When did
Wonderful.
that
Bring
come out?
that
I
in.
haven't seen that yet.
I'll send you the link.
Oh, please do. And I don't think Jamie said this yet, but we're going to turn our screens off. It's just going to be the two of you.
Okay.
So we'll do that in just a second.
All right.
And we may jump in if for example, you're forgetting to pause or you're looking down or whatever. I may politely intervene at some point, but I won't let you lose your train of thought. So I'm going to go off camera, and I'll be here though, and you can start whenever you want. Be sure to count to 3 and sort of deep breath, and you can have the posture that's most comfortable for you.
Okay.
Over to you.
All right. Bill, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to just give a 3-second pause and then I'll start. Hi, I'm Susan Massino, and I'm a professor of applied science at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I've been working on brain health and also working at the intersection of neuroscience and ecology.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Moomaw. I'm a professor emeritus from Tufts University, and I'm a climate scientist and have been working on climate and the plants on land, particularly forest, for the last 15 years or so.
Wonderful.
Sorry, Susan. So that was great. Don't worry, we're just running. Bill, just a reminder, if you can just look up, it will make it much more natural appearing. Sorry to interrupt. Back over to you, Susan.
We're here today to talk about forests and climate mitigation with a focus on the northeastern region of the United States. Okay, Bill, I think here's where you could say, Susan, do you want to talk a little bit about proforestation or something like that?
I forgot I was supposed to cue you that way. All right. Susan, I think it would be great if you could talk a little bit about proforestation, what it really means for the climate.
Yeah, this is a really important term that it's really important for people to understand. So proforestation is the practice of really protecting existing intact forests for all of the benefits that they offer: maximal carbon accumulation, biodiversity protection, clean water, and all the things that we need for well-being in our local and global communities. And it's really our essential lifeline that we all need.
Well, it was described in a paper we wrote in 2019 together, and along with our with another colleague, and we were surprised to see and pleased to see that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change recognized it as of primary importance for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the 6th assessment report that came out last year. The benefits we'll talk about in just a moment Susan.
Yeah, I was pleased to see that as well. And there's been so much international interest in the concept of proforestation as a specific term that recognizes the importance of keeping this lifeline of natural systems. And of course, it doesn't mean banning people or banning necessary things that we need to do, but it prioritizes natural processes and all their structural and ecological diversity. So, and as we found, mathematically and quantitatively in terms of biodiversity, it's the best way that we can protect the climate and protect biodiversity. And I was wondering, Bill, as the co-author on 5 IPCC reports, maybe you can talk just a little bit more about the climate benefits.
Well, the problem we have is that we've been adding so much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere that we've trapped so much heat that the Earth is warming up and actually accelerating warming, because as we heat the Earth, it finds ways to add more heat to the atmosphere. So what we need to do is stop putting so much in from all our technologies and from our deforestation, for all the deforestation. But we also need to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And forests are the leading means of doing so. They and the oceans together prevent the increase in the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by increasing by less, so it increases less than half of what we put in, which is really remarkable. There's just no technology we're talking about that can make that kind of difference.
Bill, that's such a great little factoid. I'm wondering if you want to say that one more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to say that once more?
Sure.
And
Glad.
just a quick note here, Zach, if you are going to jump in, make sure that you leave a microsecond so that the editor, in case we don't get it a second time, just remember those awkward pauses. I know it feels horrible, but just count to 3 in your mind and it won't feel so horrible. Back over to you.
Forests are important because they're helping to solve a huge problem we've created by adding so much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere from our fossil fuels and from deforestation. And forests, along with the oceans, actually prevent the increase in carbon dioxide every year from being less than half of what we've actually put in. Now that's pretty extraordinary. And forests are about 30% of that number. So it's just makes a lot of sense to think that we really need to keep our forests growing, and it provides other benefits as well. The whole problem of the loss of biological diversity is mostly because of the loss of forests. The water we need for our agriculture, forests play an important role there. And forests also evaporate water, and as they do, they take heat away. So there's another way that they help us adapt to the warmer climate and keep the temperatures from rising more than they otherwise would.
Yes, I've been recently become more aware of the critical role of forests in bringing water onto the land and the local and global impacts in terms of life on Earth and climate stability in terms of global temperatures. And a theory that was published a number of years ago called the biotic pump has been put forth by theoretical physicists. And what I've been impressed about is that all of these different fields are coming to the same conclusion about the critical importance of protecting forests, protecting large intact forests, connecting these natural areas, and also protecting forests for their benefits, community-based benefits in every region. So this is something that's important to people. It's important to the biodiversity of all life on Earth. It's important to stabilizing our global temperatures. And I know one of the issues that's come up is that young forests can sequester carbon faster than older forests. And I wonder if maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because people are really getting confused and getting the message that cutting down forests is going to help climate change.
People who make that argument let's assume for a moment it were true. If you cut down an old forest, you're going to release well more than half of the carbon in that tree into the atmosphere right away or soon thereafter. And that negates any benefit you might get from a growing younger forest. But in fact, forests, the terms young and old are really relative, and they leave out an important point. Trees grow very rapidly up through and beyond midlife. And so a tree, we did a study, Susan and I and a colleague, Bob Leverett, looking at white pine trees in the Northeast, stands of them. And these stands are between 150 and 200 years old. And so we were able to compare how much carbon was added in that stand from 0 to 50 years, 50 to 100, and 100 to 150 years. And more carbon was added between 100 and 150 years than in either of the other two periods. So I would say the reason for that is that the life of a pine tree can be about 300 years, and there are even some 400-year-old white pines that have been found. So these are just at midlife at 150 years. And so they are neither young nor old. And that's where they've actually grown the most. So it's very misleading to make this argument. And people miss the point that it's not the rate at which carbon is being removed, it's how much carbon is in the forest, because that's carbon that's not in the atmosphere. We have to get to certain goals, and we need to do it as soon as we can. But clearly cutting down old trees is counterproductive.
Well, as you know, I come from a biomedical background, and I always think of any problem from a first do no harm perspective. And we need to be really careful with the ecological pieces that are kind of keeping our whole system running locally and globally. So we want to make sure that we're not manipulating or intervening or extracting from these key pieces. And it turns out those are also the pieces that are accumulating the most carbon, protecting the biodiversity. People think they're beautiful. So we really need to figure out what we need and adopt as much as possible, reduce, reuse, recycle, and a much more kind of thrifty and careful attitude if we want to have the best future for everyone. And it should be common sense to most people that cutting down a forest isn't helping it. So we need to be really sure there's a good reason if we're going to be cutting down any forest that's part of the lifeline that we all need right now.
Well, the largest loss of forest is deforestation expanding for agriculture. So the palm oil plantations in Indonesia have totally replaced the high density tropical forests that were there. In Brazil, the cattle ranching and the growing of soybeans and so forth is just destroying the Amazon. But a close second behind that are the emissions from harvesting trees that are in areas that are going to be allow trees to regrow to be harvested again. And a paper just came out in July of this year of 2023 that found that the total emissions from harvest in the world are comparable to the emissions of the fossil fuel emissions of India and Russia combined. If harvesting were a country, it would rank third after China and the US in terms of emissions. And it just so happens that their emissions, as I said, are just about the same as the current third and fourth worst emitters, India and Russia. So we've largely ignored those emissions. In the United States, a study was done that showed that in disturbances that cause emissions like fires and so forth. And we hear a lot about fires. They make great visuals of these great wildfires. storms, insect damage, cutting down forests for urban and agriculture development in the 48 states. All of that together accounted for 15% of carbon dioxide emissions from forest disturbances. 85% was from harvesting. And when you looked at the amount, it was comparable to the emissions from all the coal-burning power stations in the United States. So we really have to look at the full cycle. We have to look at the losses from harvesting. We have to consider the foregone removals that would take place over the time it would take for those trees to grow back. And people say, well, when that happens, it's carbon neutral. Well, it may be carbon neutral, but it's not climate neutral. During that time, there was more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and there was more heat trapped. That meant more ice caps and glaciers melted, sea level rose. There were more intense storms. It caused more irreversible damage. And so what we like to point out is that eventual carbon neutrality is not climate neutral. And therefore, it's not something that we can hope to get.
Well, one thing that I'd like to add is that I know a lot of our policies are based on atmospheric carbon, which is not the only greenhouse gas. And the other thing that I always come back to is no matter what the carbon level is in the atmosphere, if we don't protect our local ecology, that is protecting our local livelihoods and our well-being and providing the lifeline that then supports our farms and our working forests, then we haven't helped life on Earth. So we have to make sure that we prioritize these local systems of nature that are essential for all of us to survive and not get distracted from that. And that's why I think forests globally are so important for the carbon and the bringing water on land, cooling the planet, protecting biodiversity, but local nature is also really important for every community, and everyone should have access to a real piece of natural heritage and a natural area that they can count on. Because as I mentioned, I'm a neuroscientist, and if we don't keep our brains healthy, we really can't do much. So this is just, for me, it's such a priority on so many levels to be really careful and think from multiple disciplinary perspectives on how we're going to best move forward and make strategic decisions about what we're doing where and why. And we need a lot more data. There is so much we don't know. I've been blown away at the just complexity of a forest ecosystem. And I'm coming to that realization as a neuroscientist who definitely has an appreciation for complex, unknown systems.
Thanks, Susan. That was a great closeout. Looks like we lost Bill.
Bill just emailed to say that his computer died tragically.
Oh my God, I was wondering what happened to him.
But you were
Yeah.
really articulate. You've got a really good closeout.
Bill is trying to get plugged back in and come back into the meeting.
All right, that's fine.
We might almost have enough stuff, do you think?
You do. The only thing I would love to have is you to close out to say, well, thanks so much for this conversation, Bill. Thanks. I'm Susan. Huh?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jamie. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You finish.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I also think it might be worth just having you both introduce yourselves one more time.
Oh, get it a little more crisp.
Yeah, I think for Bill especially, you did, I think, a fine job, Susan, but just to make sure that that is fluid and says what you wanted to say.
Okay.
But let's wait for Bill maybe to come back. Yeah, should we give him 1 second?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, here's
Susan,
Bill
you're
calling
natural.
me.
You're really articulate.
Hi, Bill. Can you jump back on, or you don't have a cord? Okay, we're still here. We're still here. You know what we're going to do just to debrief you? Are you there? Okay, while it's warming up, They're going to have us introduce ourselves one more time just to get that nice and crisp. And then we're gonna make like a closeout statement. So they said they have enough except for that. And that's what we're gonna do. Okay. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, bye.
Great. Susan, you're really a natural at this. You're really articulate and confident, and you really came across just uber professional. Really well done.
Thank you. Well, I've realized that, I mean, I have a single-minded focus that unless I'm as clear and as possible, people will misunderstand what you're saying. It's
Intentionally or otherwise.
exactly. Yep, you got it.
One way to wrap up I found is maybe you can say, any closing thoughts, Bill, and he can say the same to you. And, it's just kind of a nice way to round it out and wrap it up.
Okay. All right. So when Bill gets back on, why don't
Yeah, you do that.
why don't I
count to
start
three.
with the any closing thoughts, Bill?
Perfect. That's wonderful. And then we'll just do a retake of the introduction. We'll just make sure we have a nice long pause, and then we can redo the introduction.
Okay, perfect.
If not, we can definitely work with it. There's so much information there we can work with. I don't know if you've ever seen this software. It's amazing. You convert a video to YouTube, you upload the YouTube link, and within a few minutes, it gives you a full transcript of the entire thing, second by second.
Yes, I've done some lectures at Trinity and kind of for guest speakers, which has been handy. And I'm working on slowly working on it, mostly in my brain. I'm working on this edited book, and a couple of the people who gave talks, I'm like, if I can get their transcript, that could almost be a good start for their chapter.
Yeah. I wish that I had known this 15 years ago when I was doing my dissertation. I had 400
I
pages
know.
of transcriptions.
I know. Uh-oh, I'm checking to see if Bill's.
One other thought I had, I don't know, Susan, how comfortable you would be saying something about old forests and flooding. I mean, more importantly, old forest and flood mitigation.
Mhm.
I mean, it is a uniquely well, it's not uniquely, it's an Eastern US, especially Eastern US problem these days, obviously with flooding and climate change. And Jamie and I were hoping to interview somebody who specialized in that area, but we haven't been able to track down a good voice for that. But I wonder how much that might have come up in any of the research that you've done related to climate resilience, or as you were looking at anyways, just thinking about climate mitigation, whether you'd be, I'm not asking you to say something that you aren't comfortable speaking to, but if that is something that you would be willing to touch on briefly in your in your closing remarks, or in some kind of separate snippet here, maybe there might be a way that we can weave that in. So.
Well, Bill's not here yet, is he?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, well, Zach, I wonder, the two things that come to mind for me are floods and fires, and old forests really help with both because they're sponges. They can absorb so much water in the floods and slow it down. And they keep so much water on the land, and, downed trees store so much more water and they're wet. And those are the two issues that are going to be coming down the pike, like we have to cut down our forests because we're going to help with fires. Should I just stay off that third rail?
Well, you probably could steer clear of fire, but yeah, I think it's fine if you bring it up. And again, I don't even know if we'll have a place to weave this into the final product, but I was just thinking that if it's something that you're comfortable speaking to for a moment, we could just take a quick cut of it. That okay with you, Jamie, to give the
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So Susan,
Do I need to wait for Bill to do that?
you can jump in.
Oh,
Well,
Be sure to count to 3 so we give a nice pause, and then you just you can make a statement about it. Absolutely. And it looks like Bill's just arrived as well.
Here, so hold on
Wonderful.
a second.
okay, I'll wait till Bill gets settled.
That way he won't interrupt you.
Yeah.
Hello, Bill.
I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Let's just see how much I have, because I can't stretch the cord quite fast and far enough. Let's see, how much do I have here? I have 13%. That ought to be enough to get through the rest of
You
this.
should. Why don't we do the closing first? And that way we'll make sure that you've got enough power. So Bill, if you can get relatively the same setup, I think you were sitting before.
I'm going to move back to that. I had to reboot my computer. I had to do everything.
I know the feeling.
Okay, I guess I can't get rid of that. Okay. All right, let's see how we do here.
Perfect. It's as if
Yes.
nothing ever happened.
As if nothing ever happened. Okay, here we are. It's about like this, wasn't I? Something
Yep.
like this.
Yeah, so we're going to just do a closeout. Susan's going to lead and basically just going to say any closing thoughts. Thanks so much. And we'll close
Okay.
it. And then if we have time, we'll redo the introduction just to make sure that we get
Sure.
that nice, crisp and
Yeah,
clear.
that was a little awkward there because we were just getting started.
Hey, you're just getting started, warming up. So I'm going to go off
Yeah.
camera, and Susan, over to you to start the closeout process.
Okay.
Bill, do you have any final thoughts?
I guess the main thing I would say is that we need to value our forests and our other ecosystems, wetlands and grasslands and so on, because they are doing a major.
Oh no.
We lost him again
Oh dear.
Tragic.
at 13%. In the meantime, yeah, let's let him come back. I don't know, Susan, if you want to say just a word about flooding in forests, we can use that, and then I think Bill will come back.
Okay. Well, one thing that I wanted to add, which has been on many people's minds in the Northeast, is the risk of flooding. And old forests, and particularly intact forests on floodplains and along rivers and streams, are so important in protecting our communities from flooding, slowing down water, absorbing vast amounts of water. And the other thing that's a major reduces risk of flooding is beaver ponds. So keeping beaver ponds and kind of this intact, dynamic ecology that itself is regulating the water and protecting our communities has so many benefits as well.
Fabulous. Great.
Zach, is that okay? I tried to keep it short.
It's wonderful.
Oh, that's great. And, like I said, there's only so much content that we're going to be able to throw into this. And we're talking to, I mean, you saw the list. It's a lot of great people. So I can't even say for sure if it's going to make it in, but I appreciate you giving it a shot, because we've been wanting to have somebody speak to that and haven't been able to find the right person. So I appreciate you doing that.
What about the, discovering new molecules and medicines and things like that? That's not on most people's minds, but that's a real thing.
I would say probably not for this session. I mean, it is, of course, for tropical forests, but for temperate forests, maybe not so
Well,
much.
they
but
just discovered 16 new species in a teaspoonful of soil in Harvard Forest a couple years ago.
that does not
Just
surprise
FYI.
me. And they're magically have magical curative properties. Bill, it looks like you are in a different position. Are you okay where you are?
Well, I am, but what can I do? I can, let's see, I don't know how long is it going to take for this thing to charge up enough to be able to use without battery. I mean, without being plugged in. It says 9%.
Yeah, the
Service
minute you unplug it, you lose it. So what I suggest is if you turn around, do you still have that background behind you?
I do, more or less.
Yeah. In that case, let's just go with that. And
Okay. This is on my lap.
no one's going to look at it and say, wait a minute, the angle of that whiteboard is a little bit different.
Yeah, they're going to say Bill teleported.
Great.
Oops. Wait. Let me get this back in before it collapses.
Bill, did you say that that Birdsey paper is brand new, hot off the press, or is that the one that he?
This past week.
Oh boy, I cannot wait to see that.
All right, I will send it. I will send you the link.
Yeah, copy me on it too, Bill.
Sure.
It's
You
like,
know what? I just want it while Bill's still getting
It's
set.
like Christmas every time one of you comes out with the paper. I get so excited.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a conspiracy. We're all working together to try to get the word out.
I know. Well, guess what? I have all of my neuroscience colleagues on message now. When they introduce me, they put a big thing. I just gave a huge plenary talk and they're like, and some of you may know, and they introduced my kind of forest work, whatever, which I was kind of hiding for a while because I thought,
They're gonna,
whatever.
yeah.
You never know how people are. But finally, I decided to have a coming out party and people have been so supportive.
Well, I see you both at the Old Growth Forest Conference on Friday.
I'm planning on being there. This is one in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to be there. Okay, gosh, I got all these strange things popping up. Use the local items keychain.
Let's get while we have your plugged in, let's get the closeout, and then if we have time, we can redo the introduction. So, Susan, why don't you lead us through that closeout? And
yeah.
Bill, do you have any final thoughts?
I guess the main point I can make is that we really need to protect our forests and other ecosystems, wetlands and grasslands as well, because they are holding vast amounts of carbon out of the atmosphere, and they are continuing to remove very large amounts every single day. And it is almost ludicrous when you realize that we're spending billions of dollars on technologies to remove minuscule amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When the biggest one I know of is removing 10,000 tons, which is really remarkable. Whereas our forests are removing something like 9 billion tons. So it's just no contest. And so we really need to protect those forests and keep them working for us and providing all the other benefits, including the delight we all take when we take a walk in the forest.
Well, my final thought would be, even aside from the carbon, we need to protect natural processes because nature provides everything that we need, and we need to keep it running for us and for all of the other species on Earth.
that was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much to both of you. We've got loads and loads of material to work with. You're both absolutely brilliant in front of a videotape, which not everybody is. And Bill, all the more so when your battery's dying. So really, really grateful.
Do you want us to do the introductions again?
Why don't we? Now that we're all warmed up, you guys are warmed up, why don't you just
Yeah.
say, hi, my name is Susan Waugh, this is my job, and Bill, you can do the same, and that way we'll have it, we can edit it in if it's better than the first time. Over to you.
Should I confess to being an IPCC author? What do you
Yes,
think?
certainly.
No,
Definitely.
I think that's great. And I would say the way that you did your intro last time, I mean, forgive me for like critiquing you for on your bio, because that's the last thing that I should be doing. But I think what you said last time was that, I've been working in climate science, and then you said, I've been working on forests for 15 years or something like that. And I just think the way that you said it took away from the fact that
Very flat.
you've been working in climate
Don't be,
for a career. And
don't
so
be
I
humble.
don't want
Don't
people
be
to
humble.
think
It's like,
I've only been
this is who
doing
I
this
am.
Okay.
for
I'm
15
a rock
years.
star.
You know what
Get
I mean?
over it. Okay, over
All
to
right.
you, Susan. You can count to 3 and over to you.
Okay. All right.
Hi, I'm Susan Messino. I'm a professor of applied science at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm primarily a neuroscientist, and I've been working at the interface of neuroscience and ecology with a focus on forests.
I'm Bill Moomaw, and I am a professor emeritus at Tufts University and a visiting scientist at the Woodwell Climate Research Center. I have been working on climate for over 30 years, and about half that time on the special role that's played by forests and other ecosystems in removing and storing carbon out of the atmosphere.
Fabulous. Wonderful. I'm going to call that a wrap. We have so much to work with. We'll send you the transcript that we're thinking of using for the cut. If there's something you feel like we missed or something that we don't want there, you'll have that chance. It was an absolute delight working with you both.
Well, I'm
Amy, are
sorry.
you going to be at this conference?
This is you mean on Friday, the old growth?
Yeah.
I hadn't planned on it. I'm pretty swamped. But
Well, I think it's full, so never mind. You can't come now. That's what I heard.
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Zach will give you a report.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Good
I'll
to
see you
see you both.
soon, Zach.
Bye.
Bye, Zach.